nobody never got at me directly and said, we want you to join us and we're doing this. I have no fear of death. So, you know what I mean? It just confirms that what I said was true. But I will tell you, I've had just come at me on some weirdo shit. Just come at me on some weirdo shit, like on some gay shit. I've had my come at me on some, oh, you should do this type shit. You know, this. I view that as being inhuman. I view that as, I would never do that. What happening to me? Went to jail for some bull. Got convicted. Well, not necessarily convicted, but because I didn't do no time.
Did that. I'm not an idiot. When the first thing I said, when they pulled that pipe out that bag, I said, that's not mine. Never once have I put any dope inside my bag with all my wires, my Xbox, the bag that they're gonna open and search.
Hi, this is Mandy. Coolio always had his own code, and that made him stand out. When he spoke, people listened because he was calling out the industry for something no one else dared to. An invisible grip, where he suggested that Hollywood's power players allegedly worked behind the scenes to manipulate Black artists in ways most couldn't imagine. Coolio shared that he never had anyone directly approach him with the proposition to join them. Instead, messengers were sent his way, offering subtle yet unmistakable invitations to join in on activities he found disturbing. For Coolio, this was a confirmation that his suspicions were not only valid, but were a dangerous reality. He believed these people knew exactly what they were doing, and he understood that speaking out was putting his life in jeopardy, but he went ahead anyway. Coolio hinted that some of Hollywood's most influential names, including figures like Diddy and Jay-Z, were allegedly part of what he called a gay mafia that ran the industry. For years, he'd warned others, crying out that this wasn't just about Diddy, but about a deep-seated network that had the power to make or break careers. It wasn't simply about shady business deals or unfair contracts, but something much darker. For him, this network exerted control over Black rappers, not only forcing them to compromise artistically, but allegedly manipulating them on a more personal level. Rumors of freak-off parties began to swirl, exclusive gatherings that insiders believed were held to assert dominance over those who attended, all to keep Black artists submissive and loyal. Coolio became an outlier in the industry, someone who didn't play by their rules and refused to partake in their rituals. The cost of speaking up was steep. After Coolio began openly addressing these issues, it wasn't long before his life took a downward turn. He faced sudden arrests, including one incident at the Los Angeles airport, where authorities claimed to have found substances in his luggage. To Coolio, this seemed like an organized setup. He had never placed these items in his bag and was adamant that he would never be so foolish as to mix contraband with his everyday belongings. It felt to him like they already knew which bag to search and what they would find there, and when he asked for a DNA test to prove his innocence, he was dismissed. In Coolio's eyes, it was a clear signal, an attempt to discredit him publicly, damage his reputation, and warn him against further revelations. Coolio knew that resisting the industry's hidden agenda came with consequences. Even after he requested a DNA test to clear his name in the airport incident, he was denied, leaving him trapped in a legal snare. The ordeal left him with probation, community service, and a damaged public image that painted him as just another troubled artist. Coolio's frustration grew. He recognized this pattern of manipulation all too well, realizing it was a tactic used to control, silence, or outright ruin those who challenged the industry's inner circle. Despite it all, he never fully conformed to their system. His boldness became a target, and it was clear he'd chosen a path that wasn't just career risky, it was life-threatening. As Coolio continued to share his experiences, his caution grew. He often hinted that powerful people in Hollywood had the means to ruin not just careers, but lives. warning that those who dared to speak out were often blacklisted or worse. He mentioned feeling like there was more he wanted to teach people, more he wanted to expose, but fear held him back. Coolio had family, a daughter, grandchildren, and he admitted that their safety came first. He was haunted by the reality that these elites, who he believed ran a dark underbelly of the industry, had the power to end him at any time, using the weight of their influence to silence anyone who threatened their control. Over time, other artists began sharing eerily similar stories. People like Cat Williams came forward with claims of freak-off parties where attendees, many of whom were black male rappers, faced manipulative situations. Coolio hinted at these events too, suggesting that they weren't just parties. They were an unspoken method of humiliation and control, orchestrated by figures like Diddy and Jay-Z, who, according to these claims, held the power to decide which artists would thrive or fall. Lil Rod, a music producer who worked closely with Diddy, alleged he was coerced into covering up violent incidents and recording incriminating footage. These accounts painted a picture of an industry where control was enforced by any means necessary, with some people rising to power by stepping on those beneath them. Coolio's warnings felt like a wake-up call, especially for those beginning to question the shadows cast over Hollywood's biggest players. The risks Coolio took by speaking out about the so-called gay mafia and the manipulative tactics he claimed they used against black rappers marked him as a target. As he continued his public revelations, he began receiving death threats, and many believed he was playing with fire. But Coolio wasn't alone in his fears. Allegations against industry elites continued to grow, implicating powerful figures in behavior that crossed legal and moral boundaries. The late rapper's accusations didn't end with manipulation. He suggested that drugs were another tool of control. Whispers about the involvement of Jay-Z, for instance, pointed to an alleged network distributing substances across the entertainment scene, keeping some stars in cycles of addiction and dependence. Coolio implied that this silent, sinister machine fueled both the addiction and exploitation that plagued so many artists. Some fans argue that Coolio's sudden passing in 2022 is suspicious, aligning it with the tragic fates of other outspoken figures like Tupac and Biggie, who also challenged the industry's norms. Although Coolio's death was officially ruled a heart attack, theories emerged that it might have been orchestrated, an intentional act by those he'd spent years defying. To many, it seemed like a grim echo of the stories Coolio himself had shared. His warnings now feel prophetic, as more people come forward with accounts of a so-called gay mafia that allegedly controls artists by enforcing loyalty through fear and blackmail. Coolio's story continues to resonate because he was one of the few who had the courage to speak up. His struggles and suspicions reflected a darker reality about an industry that many view as glamorous and liberating. The repercussions he faced, from allegations to arrests and the impact on his legacy, painted a disturbing picture of an artist willing to sacrifice everything for the truth. Today, as new accusations about people like Diddy, Jay-Z, and others surface, Coolio's words take on even greater significance. Fans and conspiracy theorists alike are left wondering, did Coolio know too much? Was his untimely death another message to those who dare to reveal Hollywood's hidden truths? These questions linger, keeping Coolio's story alive as a cautionary tale about the cost of speaking out against the entertainment industry's most powerful forces.